I'd like to talk to you about similar shapes and scale factor. So similar shapes are the same type and have the same angles. So if I have two triangles that are similar, first of all, they have to both be triangles. Second of all, their angles have to be the same. So if I have two obtuse triangles, they both have to be obtuse. And so their angles have to match up so they're the same type of triangle. Their sides are multiples of each other. So let's say in this smaller triangle, let's say the sides are 4, 8, and 10. It says here the scale factor can be used to find the missing sides. So let's say my scale factor is 3. So if I have a scale factor of 3, then I'm going to multiply each of the sides in the original triangle by 3 to get the side in the larger triangle. So that would make this one 24. That would make the one from the 4, that would make that 12. And the one from the 10 would end up being 30. Now notice how the 8 and the 24 kind of match with each other. Those are called corresponding sides because they're in the same location. And we'll get to that in a second. But you want to be careful to make sure that you're matching up the sides correctly. So let's sum this up before I go to the next slide. Similar shapes are the same type and have the same angles. So I have two triangles, they're both obtuse, they're both oriented the same way, they're similar. They're kind of the same. What's different about them is their sides. And their sides will be multiples of each other. Think like giant 1 in equivalent fractions. That's kind of how we can find the missing sides in similar shapes. So let's talk about how to draw similar shapes. So let's say that I have a right triangle, and let's say the sides of this right triangle are 6, 8, and 10. And we're going to call this the original triangle. So this is the original. And I'm going to copy that. Think like a photocopier. I'm going to copy it, but I want my copy I want the ratio of the copy over the original to be 2 to 1. So that basically means my copy is 2 times bigger than my original. So that essentially means that my scale factor is 2 because I am multiplying by 2. So that means my new right triangle, now keep in mind this is not to scale because I don't have enough room here, is going to be 8 times 2 is 16, 10 times 2 is 20, 6 times 2 is 12. So that is how you create similar shapes. This is best done on a piece of graph paper because then it's to scale and you can see it better. But I wanted to make sure you understand the whole copy over original thing. This is also called the ratio. And so if they ask you to make a ratio of the copy to the original, that is what they ask you to do. Now, speaking of that ratio, I can do that with any set of sides. So let's suppose I look at the 20 and the 10. So then I'm going to put 20 over 10. Or I could do the 12 and the 6. So I would have 12 over 6. I could do 16 over 8. 16 over 8. Now here's the cool thing. All 3 of these ratios are equivalent, and they are equivalent to our scale ratio of 2 over 1. So you can use any set of sides, and the ratios should be the same. That's because the sides are similar. If the ratios aren't the same, then the sides are not similar. So a lot of times they'll give you similar shapes and they'll ask you to find the missing sides. So the first thing you want to do whenever this happens is you want to first determine the scale factor. And the scale factor is the number multiplied between the two shapes. So to determine this, you have to look for two sides that match in each shape and that you both have numbers 4. So in this case, I'm going to focus on the 4 and the 10 because those sides match. They're called corresponding sides because they match up, and I have numbers for both of them. I don't have an x, I don't have a y, so I can determine the scale factor from here. So ask yourself, what gets multiplied by 4 to get 10? That's going to be your scale factor. In this case, that is 2.5. Because 4 times 2.5 equals 10. So that means my scale factor is 2.5. So when you're trying to find x, ask yourself first off, which side does it match up with in the other triangle? And the x matches up with the 2 in the other triangle. So to find x, you're going to take that 2 and you're going to multiply it by 2.5. And 2 times 2.5 is 5, so x is 5. To find the y, ask yourself, which side lines up with the y in the other triangle? It is the 2.5. So I'm going to take the 2.5 and multiply it by 2.5, and then that's going to give me y. That is 6.25. So then my y is 6.25. Don't get worried if your scale factor is a fraction. That is perfectly okay because life is messy. Let's just put it that way. So what that means is, to find the missing side, you want first determine the scale factor by using ones that match up. Here, in this case, it was the 4 and the 10. Once you determine your scale factor, which in this case was 2.5, you're going to multiply each side by 2.5 to find the missing sides in the other figure. You can always do this backwards. I could take 10 divided by 2.5 to get 4, so then I could figure out what number divided by 2.5 is 2, and that's 5. What number divided by 2.5 is 2.5, and it's 6.25. So let's take a look at this problem because I have two similar triangles and I have sides that I don't know. So this may look a little confusing at first because the triangles are not situated the same way, but the reason these angles are marked is to kind of let you know that the angles are indeed the same. And notice how the 6 is in between the green and the red arcs, and the 4 is between the green and the red arcs. So that lets you know that the 6 and the 4 kind of match up. So if you were to rotate the triangle that the 4 is on, you could twist it and it would look similar to the other shape. And I've mentioned this word before, but I haven't written it. So the 6, so AB, which is where the 6 is, and ED, they are called corresponding sides. And the word corresponding means that they're in the same position in the similar triangles. And they're what I'm going to use to find my scale factor because they are corresponding and because I have numbers for both of them. I don't have to worry about a variable. So ask yourself, what can I multiply 6 by to get 4? Or you could even do it the other way. What can I multiply 4 by to get 6? So 4, I like to go from small to big because then I don't have to worry about as many fractions. So 4 times my scale factor is going to be 6. So ask yourself, 4 times what number is 6? You could also work it backwards and do 6 divided by 4. That is 1.5. So that means 1.5 is my scale factor. So 4 times 1.5 is 6. So that means y in this triangle over here is going to match up with the 8. So y times 1.5 is 8. So you could guess and check that, or you could divide 8 divided by 1.5. So when you do 8 divided by 1.5, it's not very nice. So I'm going to try and do it with fractions instead. So 8 divided by 1 1/2 would be 8 divided by 3/2, which is the same as 8 over 1, times 2 over 3, and that is 16/3, otherwise known as 5 1/3. So that means y equals 5 1/3. You would do the same thing to find x. So you would have x times 1 1/2. Let me erase some of this so I have some room. Okay, so to find x, I know that x times 1.5 is 7. So I'm going to take 7 divided by 1 1/2. I apologize for how these numbers didn't turn out so nice, but they often don't. So don't be alarmed if they don't turn out really nice, because it's just the way life is sometimes. So my x is 4 2/3. So here's what I really want you to be okay with. First off, make sure you understand what corresponding sides are. Make sure you're okay with finding the scale factor, and make sure you're okay with whether to multiply or divide to find the missing side in the other triangle. If you've got those things down, you're good to go.